Hi, everyone. Welcome today to the Link and Learn webinar on personalized AI coaching. I'm Tom Pollock. I'm the commercialization manager at Learnovate, and I am delighted to be hosting today's event. Before we get into the topic, I would like to remind you of a couple of tools to ensure this event is as inclusive and collaborative as possible. There's an option to add subtitles. If you desire, simply click the CC button at the bottom of your screen. Also, you can ask questions at any time in the chat on the right-hand side of the screen. And my Learnovate colleagues, myself, our speakers, we're all available to have conversations in the chat. And we are also running a poll in relation to today's topic, which you can view by clicking polls. There's a tab there on the right of your screen. And we're asking people currently, have you ever asked ChatGPT or any Gen AI tool for professional advice, focus being on the professional advice here. And before we kick off with our keynote, I'm going to take the opportunity to tell you a little bit about Learnovate and what we do. In case you don't know, Learnovate is an Enterprise Ireland and IDA funded technology center hosted by Trinity College Dublin. We have over 14 years of industry-led research on the future of work and learning. As a center, we have two key objectives. First, to be membership led by our industry partners, and two, to have research impact. Our industry membership continues to grow, and there are currently 105 members in the Learnovate community. We place a huge focus on engaging with those members through an annual calendar of events, including public events like this, and a host of exclusive member-only events. As you can see from the highlights video we just showed from Learnovation 2025, we host an annual Global Learning Summit in the Aviva Stadium. 2025 was our biggest year to date. We had over 640 registered attendees, and an impressive 90% of them filled out our form and said they created new connections at that event. That's our biggest engagement ever. So every month you can find out what's happening in the world of work and learning through our monthly Inside Learning podcast, our Momentum newsletter, and the latest research on our website. If you are interested in becoming a member of Learnovate, don't hesitate to reach out via our website or contact us directly after the webinar today. So now on to the keynote speakers, Janet Benson and Ilse White, who are going to take us through their research into personalized AI coaching. Welcome, Janet and Ilse.
Thanks a million, Tom. So I'm going to start my presentation to give sort of, I suppose, a kind of a high-level run-through overview of some of the work that we've been doing in this particular project over the last few months. And just to say, this is something that myself, Ilse, and some of my other Learnovate colleagues in the research team have been working on for a number of months. It's one of a number of projects that we are currently engaging in the AI space, and just happens to be one that, as Tom mentioned earlier, all our core research is industry focused, membership led. So these are topics that are of interest to our membership and also to any of all our industry partners. So again, this is just one example. Reach out to the team at Learnovate if you want to hear more about some of our other projects. But today we're going to talk about how AI is powering personalized coaching. And as a starting point, I just wanted to say what we're talking about today, just to set the scene. We are not talking about things like mentorship as such. We're not talking about counseling. We're not talking about therapy. What we're talking about today is that professional or organizational type coaching. And this is just a good quote from Terblanche, who is a really formidable person in this space, in the world of AI and coaching, just to say that we are looking at the kind of professional side of things, career development coaching, coaching in the workplace, and that sort of thing. So as Tom mentioned as well, we have a poll running and we'd love to hear from you. Have you ever asked ChatGPT for professional advice? Have you asked any kind of Gen AI for any kind of advice? Please answer our poll questions. We're really interested to find out how people are actually engaging with Gen AI, particularly in relation to the coaching and the career guidance kind of side of things. So do engage with our polls, and do feel free to ask us any questions. So I'm going to start off by giving you a very high level overview of what our projects and our core projects kind of look like. And you'll see here, this is a bit of a messy slide, but what we start off with doing is some desk research in the space, very much focused on what is happening in relation to the state of the market, the state of the art in relation to coaching, what coaching is, what coaching isn't. And we do that desk research to kind of set the scene for, okay, what is it that we want to focus on in relation to this particular topic? And from that, then we start to, through our structured innovation services methodologies and processes, we start to look at, okay, who are the personas that are potentially involved in this particular project? So we started off looking at someone in an organization who would maybe be a HR professional, a talent development professional, who would be bringing in this kind of coaching service into their organization and what they would need from that for their employees. And then following on from that, we started to look again at our coaches. Look, what do the coaches need, particularly in relation to, I suppose, technology and AI? Are they using AI in their coaching practice? What are they using AI for? And then to round out that triad, I suppose, we have our actual coachee persona. So that person who's being coached in an organization. We are currently running validation interviews with coaches, and my colleague Ilse will talk through a little bit of some of the insights that we've gotten from those wonderful interviews we've done with coaches, and some of them will be on our panel later. But also just to let you know that we will be running similar validation interviews with people who have been coached in this regard. So if any of you that are here today would like to get involved in that research, would like to be involved in a research interview, if you've been coached, particularly in relation to AI or any technology, reach out to us. We're really looking forward to talking to some people. So as you can see, our next step would always be that validation and piece. And then we look to see, well, are there gaps? Are there gaps out there? That do we see something in relation to the technology? Is there something that maybe we feel that is missing that we could start to develop, look at potential solutions for? And that would be the kind of next step in our project. So that's just to give you an overview, I guess, of how we run these particular core projects. So what I'm going to do is talk a little bit about some of the benefits and then some of the challenges that we found through the research and through talking to people in relation to AI for coaching. So where can AI help? So scaling is a big one. A lot more people can access a coaching experience when they're using a technology, particularly if they're using, say, a Gen AI coach. And obviously, that's something that organizations can use technology and AI to help to scale their coaching businesses as well and their offerings. So that's a huge one. And again, in relation to that too, accessibility and affordability is something that AI can really help with. So people that maybe wouldn't have been able to afford a coaching experience in the past, or that just wasn't accessible to them, is now accessible to them through the technology that's available and often freely available to people. Um, and also that this experience can be quite personalized. So depending on the information that you're providing, for example, to a chatbot or a Gen AI tool, you can get very personalized information based on, providing information on your context and what it is exactly that you're looking for, which is quite an exciting place to be in. And I suppose in relation to the personalization element also, you can be provided with very tailored feedback in relation to what you're looking for in the coaching experience. So Gen AI and technology are able to do a lot of that kind of work, but also help you with things like goal setting, and some of the tasks around certain types of activities if you want help with setting up your goals and achieving goals, or even things like, how do I learn more about time management, for example. There are lots of different tools and areas and contexts that AI can help with. And then when we look at the coach side of things as well, the technology here can help with the automation of things like those routine tasks, even things like scheduling, that initial sort of assessment piece that coaches have to do to make sure that coachees are a good fit for their coaching experience. So these are all things that are very helpful. And are definitely of benefit to kind of free up coaches, I suppose, to do the real coaching work, as they might say it. I have two here that are sort of like where AI can help maybe. And I think the always available one, you've probably heard the term a coach in your pocket, can be a good thing. But also, what about, situations where perhaps you're engaging with a coaching experience, it's sending you lots of reminders to do this, that, and the other, and to do your activities, and, to kind of keep progressing with your kind of coaching journey, whatever that might be. But example, maybe you're on holidays for 2 weeks and you're still getting pings about, did you do your coaching work today? Did you do, so having that, always available coach in your pocket can be a good thing, but also perhaps think about, where it mightn't actually be hugely beneficial to people. And the area too around cognitive empathy. So a lot of people have said that they like to engage with a piece of technology for coaching because they don't feel that they're being judged, that they have that feeling that the tool itself understands them. And for people to understand or to feel that level of cognitive empathy, that they feel that they're being understood and they're getting good advice, can be a good thing. But also when we think about it, it's not always a positive. And when myself and Ilse did a lot of the desk research into this, there are a lot of horror stories out there, not necessarily in relation to career coaching, but I'm sure a lot of you have heard a lot about where people, particularly young people, are asking ChatGPT for advice, and the outcomes aren't always very positive. So again, in relation to that, some of the challenges that exist, and I'm sure some of our wonderful coaches and panel members will talk about some of these, but ethical considerations, a huge one in the current space in relation to using technology and AI for coaching experiences. And of course, privacy concerns. So what is being shared? You know, coachees might be concerned about what information, personal information is being shared in the technology for them. And that kind of goes both ways too. Coaches, I'm sure, have some concerns around, you know, privacy and what is in the out in the ether there, you know, what's being shared. Um, and also that lack of the human element. So, you know, it's not a real person if you're dealing with essentially just a piece of technology for a coaching experience. So you could be lacking some of that human approach, that kind of understanding of the person, even down to things like seeing somebody's body language or how they're reacting in a particular situation. That human element is definitely missing if you're using 100% AI or Gen AI coaching experience. And also, you know, it can miss some of those cultural nuances. So, you know, we know that there are different, like within different cultures, there might be different language, different things that just, if the technology doesn't understand the cultural impact or who they're dealing with, then some of that can be lost, and that can be actually quite damaging at times. And when I talk about damaging, I'm sure everyone here is aware of AI hallucinations. As a best case scenario, you can be provided with incorrect information. As a worst case scenario, you could be provided with harmful information. And I know we're talking again here about professional and career coaching, but can you imagine being given advice by a piece of technology that actually is detrimental to your career, and you make a decision based on something that's just completely incorrect? Very dangerous. Very dangerous kind of situations. But also, we were looking at things like jailbreaking, which is where the guardrails that are in place to protect the users can be circumvented by the users. And again, this is very technical, and I'm not a tech person, but it's something that we were looking at in relation to, you know, protecting the user and making sure they're getting, you know, a real experience and they're not being provided with incorrect information or detrimental information, or, you know, that they're sort of in that safe environment. So again, that's something that can be very challenging when we're looking at things like, you know, AI for coaching. So I have finished my piece. I would like to hand you over to my colleague Ilse White, who is going to take you through in more detail the research that we've done. And hopefully you'll find that really interesting. Thank you, Ilse.
Thanks, Janet. Yes, hopefully you do find that interesting. I thanks, Janet, for outlining the background of the project and discussing those benefits and challenges. Like Janet said, I will be taking a deeper dive into some of the research that we conducted. Some of the things that Janet say may come back as well, but it'll be more kind of specific to the AI coaching context. So let's dive in. And I thought it would be interesting to start off by highlighting where the current AI coaching capability is at. And I want to highlight a recent piece of research that was conducted by Passmore and Ruchman, who are very prominent researchers in the AI coaching area. And they tested an AI coaching bot that they have developed over the years and found that that particular AI coach bot is already able to coach comfortably at the International Coaching Federation's associate certified coach level. And if there are really narrow and well-defined kind of coaching tasks, an AI coach chatbot can even reach the professional certified coach level. And as you can see from the eligibility requirements on this particular slide, it does require quite a bit of investment from a human coach to perform at that level anyway. And while the chatbots that are leveraged in this research have got a lot of coaching and research power behind them, it does show that AI coaching bots are, as the title of this particular paper suggests, which I recommend a read of, are getting better and better all the time. So what we're talking about when we're talking about AI coach bots is this idea of coaching emulation, where AI is used as an autonomous coach. That is an area that's explored quite a lot. However, there's quite a number of other ways in which AI is considered for coaches and by coaches. And the first one is probably the most accessible or perhaps popular, even though we don't really have the data, but it's a very accessible way to introduce technology and AI into your coaching, which is to support the coach. And this is often referred to as hybrid coaching or triadic coaching. And it means that the coach, the coachee, and the AI coach all work together to create a coaching experience that adds the most value for the coachee. And for this, you can think about things like onboarding coachees, assessing their needs, administrative coaching tasks, providing nudges and reminders between coaching sessions and things like that. The third kind of application is like very coach centered, and it's using AI to improve the practice of the coach by leveraging LLMs to practice coaching conversations or to find coaching activities for a specific client. Or to review notes. And that kind of moves into the coaching data analysis use, whereby a coach would use kind of AI to analyze like coaching notes or to basically review or evaluate their practice and highlight nuanced areas for improvement in their practice as a coach that as a human, you might not notice because of bias or because, these things develop over such a long period of time, and AI can be better at that. This is also used in terms of the relationship with the coachee, whereby a coach could look at analyzing coaching data for a particular person to look for patterns in behavior with individual coachees, or perhaps maybe even trends across an organization if they're coaching at a organization-wide level. So from quite an early stage in the research, you can see that a lot of the focus around AI in coaching, the use of AI in coaching, is centered around providing quality and ethical kind of experiences. And this is a model from 2020, which was designed by Terblanche, who was referenced earlier. And that kind of illustrates the importance that's placed on the quality and ethical conduct. So what this does is it places the AI coaching in the context of the organization. So it places some boundaries at an organizational level. And then in addition, it places all of the kind of coaching behaviors and coaching activities within a framework of ethical conduct. And what you can see is central to the coaching experience or the design of the coaching experience is those aspects that are really specific to a coach and coachee relationship. Things like trust and empathy, reliability, acting out of benevolence and integrity, transparency, all those kind of things. And then in addition, the coaching kind of model, there's a coaching model that supports the coaching behavior of the AI coach bot, and that leads to a very specific outcome. There's many models out there, and supporting like an AI coach bot design with one of those models is considered to be best practice and to make sure that that high quality can be guaranteed. The DAIC model, which I just referred to, is also paired with a number of design principles for AI coach bots that are really there to ensure that the coachee has a safe and positive experience with a coach bot. So it's not so much about trying to keep the human in the loop, but it is about training the model to adopt certain coaching behaviors that a human coach would be better equipped to do just because they have that human capability. So the first thing is that it's important to ensure that the coachee knows that the AI coach bot is limited in its support that it can provide. And that's really no different to a human coaching experience. Meeting with a coach, beneficial as it is not a silver bullet to all of your problems. So it's important to kind of emulate that in an AI coaching experience as well. And then for the second and third points here is that it's really important to train the coach model to check on itself and to check on its behaviors in relation to meeting the needs and protecting the coachee. This is very difficult to accomplish, and as Janet mentioned, there are already some example where this is not going right. Like if those boundaries are not in place, you end up with a low quality coaching conversation and relationship where which can have very serious consequences for the safety of the coaches, and in some cases even leading to deaths, which have been reported recently. It shows that people trust AI with a lot of information about themselves. There's not really kind of a hesitation, particularly with younger generations, to share a lot of and disclose a lot of information. So they need to be reminded to be careful with what they exactly disclose and understand in what context in which that's happening, and keep a critical perspective of that they're having a conversation with an AI, which might have its limitations. And it's not always easy to do that, because the shortcomings of AI coaches is that by nature, or generative AI in general, it doesn't really push back on you and will always try to be helpful, even when that helpfulness is not appropriate and actually a more critical view or some pushback is required. So to help people who engage with AI coach bots, it's important. These are important design considerations to make. And the last one is even like, how human-like does the chatbot design need to be? Like, does there have to be a way to distinguish that you're talking to an AI rather than a human? So these are all very important things to consider. So then, what does that look like? What does the market for coaching look like right now? And does this actually happen in practice? So part of our research efforts is usually to take a look at the state of the market and to see what services and solutions are out there. And it's quite interesting with coaching to see the wide range of services that are available and the role that technology plays in those particular services. So if you look at this image as a spectrum, where on the one hand there is no and low tech, and at the other end it's completely kind of led by AI, you can see that on the bottom end of that scale, not the low end of the tech spectrum, you can see that there's coaches who have built like impressive coaching skill sets, and for who the relationship is core to the quality, and there is no technology that comes into that. And then that second market segment is the coaching platforms, the skilled coaching platforms. They employ human coaches, often at the associate or professional certification levels. And the main goal of those is to make coaching accessible and affordable. And you often see those platforms implemented at like an organizational level to provide coaching solutions for employees at scale. Then in the middle of it, and surprisingly, it's already the middle, you find a hybrid coach, which is what we discussed earlier. And these are human coaches who use technology, including AI, in their practice to improve the experience. And then the fourth market segment is the growing use of AI chatbots. These are typically designed based on coaching models and smaller language models to contain the flow of the coaching process and to put some boundaries around them. And then the final segment is the use of large language models like ChatGPT for coaching. So people use these LLMs as a coach by asking it to perform as a coach. And the research shows that people are very willing to do this, and it is super accessible and often found to be quite useful as well. However, as I mentioned before, there are quite big risks to the coachee well-being in this scenario. So taking all of these insights then together, it's clear that there's still a lot of questions about the use, the benefits, and the challenges of AI coaching. And the ones here on the screen seem to be the most prominent questions that are bubbling up in the research discourse at the moment. Like with any application of AI, the implications around ethics and data protection and privacy are really big unknowns. But because coaching is an inherently very deeply human and sensitive process, it is causing a lot of concern in relation to the protection of people's well-being. Maybe more so than in other areas even. Another major question is whether AI can emulate that coach-coachee relationship and build that rapport and build that trust like a human coach can. The coach-coachee relationship is the cornerstone of coaching, and despite the capability getting stronger, the AI coach capability getting stronger, there is still doubt if an AI coach will ever be able to lead a deeply human process. However, with the capability growing, there is currently a lot more confidence that AI will get there and that it will be able to provide a really high quality coaching experience without necessarily the intervention of a human there. And that is putting the coaching profession on its toes at a minimum, and perhaps also holding up a mirror to show that the profession as a whole needs to evolve and needs to prepare for working alongside and working AI in their coaching practice. So that's what's coming out of the research, but we always validate what we find with the actual users. So we asked, what do coaches think about this, to validate all of these insights. We interviewed a wide variety of coaches, and here is a summary of what they think. And in general, the interviews validated most, if not all, of the findings from the research, but there's a few nice nuances there. There's definitely a belief that AI cannot replace, or maybe should not replace, for some coaching situations, the human element of that. Like some coaching interventions and situations are just too complex. For example, when you're coaching at a leadership level or group coaching experiences. But having said that, for some more simple activities, AI chatbots, coach bots can be really useful. For example, if it's individuals learning about time management or want to get some advice on early career development, for example. And there is some level of fear of being replaced by the technology, but at the same time, there is kind of an awareness that it is out there, people will use it, and there's a trust that people will choose the coaching experience that suits them. So if that is an entry-level coaching, skilled coaching solution, that's perfect. If they want more personalized and deeper coaching, they might seek out a human coach. Or if they want a quick answer, they might turn to an AI coach bot, for example. What's really kind of overarching is that there is an awareness that the coaching profession and coaches themselves need to continue to develop their skills. And there's a certain curiosity about leveraging AI and see what it can do for people's coaching practice. So that's looked at in quite a positive way. And it's kind of related to this idea that coaches do need a toolbox to provide custom experiences. They continuously evolve their practice anyway. So with AI in the loop now as well, it brings a certain curiosity to leverage AI and see how it can improve practice. And generally, AI is viewed as a natural and albeit disruptive evolution of the AI coaching sphere, if you like. So, as always, we leave this presentation probably with more questions than answers, but that's a good thing. And before we move to the panel discussion, I would just like to close off with a few reflective questions for yourselves, and just take a few moments to consider what your future view on AI coaching is. Will it replace the human professional coach, or is a hybrid model what's best? Or will the future of AI coaching be without the actual AI, and will the human element stay central to coaching? Some things to consider, some things the panel will discuss as well. So thanks for listening, and I'll just hand you over to Tom, who will introduce the panel to you. Thanks.
Thanks, Ilse, and thanks, Janet. That was a fantastic presentation. I really like the way you guys broke it down and analyzed the entire concept. And now what I'm really interested to hear about is reactions and thoughts from our panel, who will be sharing their expertise with us. Now we've got Kira, Nadine, Bernard, and Laura on this panel, and welcome.
Thanks, Tom. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom.
Thanks, Tom. So I think that was just such an interesting presentation from Janet and Ilse. Really interesting research there. Maybe we might just go around ourselves very quickly, introduce ourselves, and then I really want to ask you some questions and see what you're seeing on the ground as coaches. So my name is Ciara Garvin. I'm the founder of Work Juggle. We deliver transformational projects across organizations. And as part of that transformation process, we often have coaches working with people one-to-one. So we're familiar with this. But I think today has opened up a whole array of questions based on the research by Janet and Ilse. So Nadine, I might go to you first. Would you mind giving us a quick introduction?
Yeah, of course. Hi and hello to everybody who's here and listening. My name is Nadine McCarthy. My business is Be the Best You Can Be, which is working across both sport and business, delivering coaching, leadership, performance and change. And I consider myself not unique in this, but maybe one of the OGs or the original coaches, because I'm 20 years coaching at this stage.
Brilliant. It's always good to be an OG. Okay. Brilliant. Bernard, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes, hello everyone. My name is Bernard Chanliot. I'm the founder of BC Team Coaching Limited. We've been in the market since about 20 years. I'm a professional coach. What we do essentially is we do strategic coaching for founders and senior leaders in complex environment. So absolutely appreciate this discussion and the survey from Learnovate. Thank you very much for that.
Super. Thank you, Bernard. And Laura, how about you?
Thank you. My name is Laura Sheehan. I'm a manager in PwC. My background is in the people aspects of transformation, and my focus over the last 2 years has been predominantly on AI adoption. So helping people upskill and see the benefits and the business value of AI. And in my day-to-day role, I'm also a coach within the workforce team.
Okay, very interesting. So you kind of see both sides of it there.
Yeah. Trying to find ways of using it, but also making sure that it's implemented safely and securely, and looking after the aspects of responsible AI as well.
Super. Thank you for that. And listen, just before I start asking the panel questions, because I have loads of questions, there is on the right-hand side, there's a Q&A section. And if people, as it comes through, if you have questions you want to ask as well, I think we'll try and get to them as well, because I know this is a really interesting topic. So Nadine, I might come back and start with you first. So you run a coaching practice currently. Are you using AI?
I am using AI, yeah. I am using AI in a number of different ways with my coaching clients, with permission, obviously, and ethically. But some of the ways that I'm using it are with, I'm using Zoom for my online coaching, and there's an AI summary tool working in the background, again with permission, with clients, which summarizes actions and tracks the coaching session. So I'm using it in that way. Interestingly, a few weeks ago, just in terms of the feedback from one of my clients on that as a report or as a summary tool, was she said that she opened it up in between sessions to check in on her actions and momentum. And she said that rereading that actually reignited the energy of the coaching session. And she felt, that it was different, because for her, it's new using this as well. And I just thought it was really fascinating and very beneficial, I suppose, a resourcing feedback, just to say that it, kind of landed her immediately back in the energy and the momentum that she could, build on from there. So I'm using it in that way. Sometimes I use it for ideation on next steps or interim reports on performance for clients. And in terms of my own evolution using AI, I have literally just come off the back of developing a low-code, no-code web-based coaching intervention tool. So that's all very new, and I'm just kind of heading towards user testing with that. But that will be using chatbot coaching agents as well to deliver some of the tools.
Okay, really interesting. So yeah, and I suppose I think that's a nice, like you say, you've got the low code, no code, but also an inbuilt tool in Zoom. I mean, I think we all find that super handy. You know what I mean? And it's just there, and it works. So really interesting. And Laura, you're in a very different organization, a huge corporate organization. Are you using AI? And if so, how?
Yeah, we're using a range of AI tools. In my day-to-day role, I'm using ChatGPT, Copilot, and Hagen, so some avatar tools as well for AI. So in my day-to-day use, I'm using it for research, drafting questions, summarizing. I suppose as a coach and a coachee, I use it in that kind of triad method and using it for prep and follow-up, and even from the avatar perspective, using it to just have those kind of follow-up conversations in a safe way of kind of practicing conversations, or even just exploring things more before actually having that human conversation as well. So using it in a range of ways, and I found it a real kind of game changer in my day-to-day work, just being able to have, I think, getting rid of the blank space or the blank page feeling of just being able to get started and get moving and kind of process thoughts or be able to articulate them more as well. But I found it really useful in that way, yeah. But I think the one thing I have noticed, I think, is just having a really strong understanding of AI has been crucial in how I've used it well. I think there is that piece that Janet and Ilse mentioned about just making sure people are using it safely, and those unintended consequences even, I think, especially with the younger generations and how they use it, and just being careful around that. I think the safeguarding piece is crucial, just to make sure to get the maximum benefit of it, and I think minimize the risks as well along the way.
Sure. And can I ask, do you find it helps with you? Because I know Ilse mentioned this earlier on that scaling journey. Do you find it's useful there as well, or?
Yeah, definitely. I think it just makes things more manageable. I think in making sure I'm focused on that value added piece of actually thinking things through and spending more time on the conversation and actually exploring things. So I think being able to use it on that admin kind of those operational kind of tasks on the day-to-day, I think it helps kind of scale up to make sure that my time and focus is on where I can actually add value rather than on managing or coordinating things through. So definitely I think on the scaling up bit has been really, really helpful.
Okay, interesting, super. And Bernard, I'll come to you. Last question, same question to you, please.
Okay, I think compared to my two colleagues on the panel, I would add one more because a lot of it has been said. I've used it also in coach education. I don't think that has been mentioned. When I was going for my Master Certified Coach certification by the ICF, for example, has been referred to with ACC coaching here. At the MCC level, which is a tough one, it's the highest level of credentials with the ICF. I used it a lot with summarizing my own coaching sessions, and you can actually also plug it in to mirror the ICF core competencies. So that was very helpful. And if any listeners here today or going for their PCCs or MCCs, I would invite them to use this tool. It's very useful, obviously, on top of a mentoring coach. Other aspects will depend then on the arc of your coaching engagement. I think Nadine has mentioned that a lot. I mean, this summarizing a 360 assessment, summarizing, or for example, we do a lot of work with startups and different verticals. So I don't necessarily, we're agnostic here at BC Team Coaching. I'm not a specialist in clean tech, med tech, fintech, or whatever. So I would use AI to do a SWOT analysis or PESLE analysis of the vertical of the client I'm going to work with. The summary of coaching sessions have been mentioned. The middle of the arc has been mentioned, and then obviously the evaluation. So, for example, just like Nadine, we at BC Team Coaching, we have a custom GPT at the moment that we're playing with, that is getting more and more familiar with, especially me, my philosophy of coaching, as I've been in the profession for more than 20 years. So getting to know your custom GPT and feeding it. So, for example, giving it 15 to 20 client evaluation and extracting what is it are you getting from that evaluation, what can you tell me about my coaching style and how clients are evaluating what is the impact of our coaching style, et cetera, et cetera. So at that level, depending on the arc of the coaching engagement, we're plugging in the AI tools a bit. Yeah.
Okay, very interesting. And that's some really interesting uses of AI. And what I found very interesting in Ilse's research as well was that piece around, like when I had thought of AI and coaching, I thought, oh yeah, scheduling, things like that. But like when you look at it in that terms of coach education and data analysis, I think that sounds really powerful. And Nadine, can I come back to you again? So what do you think AI can realistically add to coaching? But what, and the flip side of that is, what do you think should remain deeply human?
Yeah, well, I probably, you know, from the research and from everybody here on the panel in terms of Bernard and Laura, there's a lot of what it can do already for us in terms of what I believe should remain deeply human are the skills and capacities that I honestly don't know if it will ever get there. I know there's a question mark over that, but skills around intuition and embodied learning that, you know, really needs to happen in order for transformation to take hold, and for it to be enduring as opposed to, you know, a quick fix. I think, you know, this isn't my last point that I want to say, but it's just coming to mind. It's just, there's also the opportunity for, as we say in Ireland, having the crack, you know, like the relationship piece, the co-creation piece, the piece that doing something with a machine or doing something on your own can just never, ever create. I think that's really, fundamental to the human relationship in terms of coaching.
And the energy and warmth that can come from that.
Yeah, exactly. And I also think that there's definitely an opportunity to, you know, this is an emerging term now that's coming up called HAIST, which stands for Human AI Symbiotic Intelligence. So HAIST, and I think about that as a kind of, you know, in a visual way, I think of that as an infinity loop, and that we have, you know, AI on one side, you know, so like the kind of the infinity loop, the figure of 8 on its side, and that we have the human intelligence on one side and AI on the other side, and just to be really mindful, cautious, careful, ethical, and conscious about how much we lean in and kind of over expand one side of that over the other, because I think we still need to retain sovereignty and agency as we're working with AI. So I leave it there.
Absolutely. No, really good point. That's a really good point. And it kind of leads me on to my next question, which I'm going to give to you, Laura, is what would you draw the line on and what would you not delegate to AI? So I see there in the questions that Neil was saying they use Copilot within Teams to summarize coaching sessions, create actions, and it allows coaches to be more present in each session without having to focus on taking notes. And you can totally see how that would work. You know what I mean? I'm not worried, did I catch that, whatever. But where do you draw the line?
Yeah, I think it's a really good question. Like where I think the draw the line is around those kind of transactional lower level pieces of coaching. I suppose if it's day to day, something that can be drawn from a policy or coaching guidance that's already there, or if it's finding, I suppose, documented information that is safe and secure and you're pulling from a safe resource. So from that point of view, there's a kind of a secure method around it. I think that's anything beyond that. I think, like Nadine mentioned, coaching is so much about the relationship and the enduring relationship. And that piece, I think you even notice a difference between a virtual coaching call rather than an in-person one. And there's a time and place for both. So I think there's different levels of when you have that basic kind of feedback and tracking and pieces that can be pulled from a secure documentation, where AI be a brilliant resource for both coach and coachee to get the most out of the relationship in real time. And then as you go into more sensitive things or exploring more areas, that's where you actually need to keep that face-to-face and that virtual aspect, that it maintains that trust and sensitivity. And also, I suppose, where that critical thinking and curiosity that a conversation naturally flows, that coach and coachee can get the most out of it. So I do think it's still AI is that baseline piece, and people have so many questions, and being able to access it in real time is a really important thing, that it's not just that hour-long conversation and being able to go back and dip into their feedback or their action points at a time that suits them, where there can be real safe benefits from it too.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting. And Bernard, I'm going to ask you the same question, but I'm going to ask you a follow-on question as well. So the question is, where would you draw the line on using AI? What would you not delegate to AI? And I know you've talked a bit about your use of AI, but can I ask you, have any clients pushed back on that use, or alternately asked specifically for AI to be used? I'm interested to know, are users driving this, this move towards AI, or is it coaches themselves? So how do you find it, Bernard, in your practice? There's a lot there.
There's a lot there. I'm going to take the latter question.
Sure.
I've got a unique case at the moment where I'm coaching a global CTO based in the UK who's a registered blind in the UK. So 500 employees, multi-million sterling budget, okay? And obviously AI came into the subject conversation, and he asked me, can I use AI? We use Teams, Microsoft, so can I use AI meeting summary with Teams? I said, of course, if that's just going to help you. So this is how we actually started using the summary. So as Nadine mentioned, this is where the professional bodies kick in. The ICF has a very strict code of ethics, and it's renewed almost every 3 years, and we have to keep up to date if you want to keep our credentials. So the code of ethics, really, the ethical guidelines of the professional bodies really kick in around the EI piece for that. So it depends on the client. So you have to ask for consent, but some of them actually ask for it. So okay. I have no issue with that. But that's a very specific case. Now, your first question around where do I would draw the line?
What would you not delegate? Yeah, what would you not delegate?
Yeah, what I would not delegate is another angle to this whole conversation is if you split the segmentation. I mean, in the research, there was a split in segmentation. If you split this with the workforce, individual contributors, middle management, all that stuff, you can delegate this to AI. And everything above head of function, head of department, directors, senior directors, VPs, SVPs, CEOs, it's going to be more and more difficult to plug in AI. And actually research, one of our partners have done research around that. The C-suite does not want to use AI. Why? Because the themes of coaching, and this is our target segment at BC Team Coaching, you're going into leadership complexity, you're going into leadership identity, very deep transformational subjects that today we're way ahead. AI cannot replace. Everything to do with meaning making analysis, psychodynamic analysis, deep complex subjects, AI is still catching up, and we have a couple of years ahead of us. Everything, I think Laura referred to that, which is basic transactional, at an individual contributor level. Yes, you can delegate this to an AI chat box, and a lot of the programs today on the main digital coaching platforms from the unicorns are quite well known out there at the global level. They have hybrid programs where they mix their AI chatbot with a human coach.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, okay. I think there's just so many questions about all this, isn't there, in terms of like ethics, and is this what you would want yourself? Or, there's always that great question. Is this what you want? Would you want this for your own child? I don't know. This is all very interesting though. So Nadine, I'm going to ask you now. In terms of, you run your own business, you're a coach, you're well established, you're doing it 20 years. Is AI a threat, or is it a complementary tool? Where do you see it?
Well, I'd be lying if I said it wasn't a threat and I haven't been worried about it, or I haven't been, tracking it and integrating it. I think by educating myself and researching it and using it and applying it and iterating and getting feedback, that has helped me see where I want to use it and potentially use it more with that, with a balance. My work is also not just coaching solely, but I think there's an underpinning coaching foundation to everything I do, because there's the one-to-one or the group coaching, but then there's also coaching cultures, and then there's also coaching skills. So I'm kind of working at a, like Bernard mentioned it, but like at a systemic or even at an ecosystemic level. And so coaching is, AI coaching, should I say, is a really enhancing tool that I want to continue to use. But with caution, with ethics, and constantly preserving what I think is the genius in every human being, which is what makes us so incredible. And if we outsource everything to AI, then we're in danger of not only coaching going extinct, but other things as well, and other amazing human capacities. So I'm using it. I'm enjoying using it. I'm testing it, getting feedback, but I'm cautious, and I'm above all wanting to be ethical in my use of it as well.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, I absolutely understand that, Nadine. And I'm just going to do a quick time check. So I'm going to be talking with this panel for another 4 minutes. I can see there's chat happening on the side there and some really interesting points people are making. If you have questions, please, type them in now and we would still have time to get to them. Otherwise, I'll be handing over to Tom in about 4 minutes. So Nadine, we've said all this. What do you think the future of coaching looks like? Laura.
Thanks, Kira. Yeah, I think just building on what Nadine said, like I think it's here already. So I think it's that piece of integrating it, and I think we've seen like in my own work, just in AI adoption and in different areas of AI, it's a lot around augmenting roles and actually being able to transform current roles and even including coaching. And the one thing I've seen is people are using it already. It's out there, and where AI isn't in work or it's not made available, people are going on ChatGPT. There's that shadow usage. So I think that safeguarding piece and making sure that is covered off, and that responsible AI around how people can use it ethically is really crucial. Just to cover that off. But I think where it's actually going to be used and where it can be used well is actually in that making that real-time coaching piece in a safe and secure manner. I think that triad piece to coaching, and also just that pattern detection. So making sure that analysis and making people use their time more effectively. I think there's such a skill and a specialism in coaching that it can't be replaced by AI. I think in that curiosity in a conversation, or that kind of just learned experience and lived experience that can't be replaced by AI. I think it can definitely support it, especially as you push through to that executive level. Like it just, there's no comparison, I think, to those conversations. So I think used as a supplementer and a supporter and enabler of good coaching is where it'll be best used in the future.
Okay, very interesting. And I see just there on the side, James Martin has a really interesting point, and this has been touched on earlier, but it was also this point around how agreeable AI can be. And I do find ChatGPT generally thinks I'm great. Anything I give them, they're like, oh, that's super, that's really good. But that's not always like appropriate. Sometimes you need somebody to push back, not say yes to everything, and not over friend. I think that's a really, really good point. And so I'm going to come to Michelle's question. I think I'll come to it now, actually, because we are going to run out of time. So Michelle asked, also wondering about assessing pre-existing vulnerability in some client coachees. Is this an area where we're seeing research in relation to when or who is AI coaching okay for? I think that's a really great question. Who would like to take it on the panel?
Well, I might say I'm not aware personally, professionally, of something like that existing at the moment. But I guess, yeah, it's a really good question, actually. And
it is a really good question. It's a different way of looking at it. And Laura, I was going to go to you, but then I'm like, well, you're, what do you see it happening inside in PwC? Is there...
I think more broadly, I think I suppose we have our AI business rules and our AI do's and don'ts. So there is that level of judgment. So we keep our rules broad, so that whether it's a coaching conversation or performance conversation or a feedback conversation, where those things where there's a level of sensitivity, you should not be using AI. So I think you can use your, like in meetings and things. So like, I think it's having that terms and conditions around it where it can only be used in certain areas, and with a level of data so that you're not using personal information or anything against it. So it's in your business rules around your use of AI, and I think that comes back to that responsible AI and that education piece of where you can and can't use it as well from that perspective. So yeah, it's kind of at the preset before even getting into using AI, it's kind of having that covered off.
Yes, absolutely. And I think that's a really important point and a question to finish off on. I think I'm going to close up here for now and hand back over to Tom, but not before referencing there is this really interesting question still in the chat. And it's the whole question around privacy, data, confidentiality. And in that way, I do think AI is not going to get that easy a ride as the internet did 20 years ago. People are much more wide awake to their data, what they own, what they don't own. And I think there's going to be some really interesting times ahead. So I just want to thank the panel so much for your expertise. We've had such an interesting array of experience and perspectives, and I found the conversation really interesting, and I hope everybody else has as well. Over to you, Tom.
Thanks so much, Kira, and thanks everyone on the panel. That was a really engaging discussion. Really appreciate it. And thanks everyone for attending today. We will be sharing all the support materials after the event today on our YouTube channel, and you can catch up with recordings of all of our Link and Learn webinars there. And if any of you would like to speak to us at Learnovate about our research or joining the Learnovate community, don't hesitate to get in touch. Again, huge thank you to Janet, Ilse, Kira, Nadine, Bernard, and Laura for sharing their expertise today. And that's it for today's Link and Learn. Enjoy the rest of your day.